Stop.
What? Oh. All right. Welcome to this month's edition of Trivial Debates, the ultimate pop culture challenge. We have some awesome new debates this month. Each week, our panelists will be judged and scored on their arguments for facts, passion, and creativity. Our panelists this week are Jody Simpson.
I will be. Now I am.
Chris Seymour.
He's coming. I know he is. He'll be here.
He's already given up.
He's dependable. He'll be here. There he is.
And Dave Mater.
Wow, Dave just showed up like right away.
Yeah, Dave's ready.
He was already ready.
Yeah.
He's ready to go.
ready.
He's raring.
All right, how the show works. There are 6 rounds plus a speed round by our top 2 panelists. The categories are movies, television, music, sports, history, and a wild card. We want people to be passionate and personally mean to one another, or as much as possible.
Excellent. I shall do well.
Keep in mind, you can also skip to a new debate by looking at the time indexes in the description and going to the battles that interest you the most. Follow us on Facebook and YouTube. All links and information can be found in the description or at wherever. Super Mater Brothers? It's not in the thing.
What?
It's not where you find everything is not in there. So I don't know the website, Dave.
Like, it's all pretty intuitive. Like, it's at, / Trivial Debates / Super Mater Brothers podcasting / Trivial Live Long and Podcast. So
Okay,
on Facebook
great.
or YouTube.
All right.
Personally, I love this new intro.
All right, let's get started.
This is episode 43. We're very tight on this now. So it's good.
Well, we
You
thought
ring
we
the
were.
bell.
Ding, ding.
So, who that's the first?
Ding, ding, ding. Ding, ding, ding. Louder. You got to turn it up. Okay.
There it is.
All right, movies. What is the best movie with a mostly female ensemble cast? And let's start with Chris.
Okay, we want to start with me.
Absolutely.
Contestant number 3. Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, I chose the movie Bridesmaids. Came out in 2011. I'm sure we've all seen this movie. It is friggin' one of the most hilarious movies of the past decade, I would say. You know what? It reminds me of. It's kind of like a female version of The Hangover. It's honestly the first movie I ever saw Melissa McCarthy in, who went on after that to do many movies. Very funny lady. There's scenes with her on the plane where she friggin' thinks the guy she's sitting next to is a U.S. Air Marshal. It's just hilarious. There's one scene in this movie particularly that probably made me laugh harder than I've ever laughed at a movie in a long time. One of the bridesmaids, she gets food poisoning, and she literally starts walking across the street to get to the washroom and can't hold it in. And I just remember laughing so hard when she's walking across the street going, "It's happening, it's happening," and then she just sat down. And her friends are like, "Oh my God, she's sitting in the street." Just one of the best movies of the past decade, and happens to have a mostly female cast.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Let's move on to Dave.
We got to change it to Dave's face.
Solo on. So hit the solo where it says solo off. Yeah, there you go. All right. Hello. I'm arguing for a little movie called The Craft from 1996. This movie, don't me. This is my time. I'll be me all through. I know what your movie is, by the way.
Well, of course you did, because you picked it first.
No, I picked it second. And I'll tell you, The Craft is a movie that features 4 young girls in high school. It was a teen film that featured Robin Tunney, Nev Campbell, and a host of other young, successful actors, female actors. And it was what set it apart was it allowed a bit of a darker imagery in a kind of a teen film, as the 90s were getting more comfortable with putting stuff like the occult, like witchcraft, into films. It's also very much an archetype for later films. Like I think a spiritual sequel to that film is Mean Girls. It's about a new girl coming to town and being embraced by this new group who makes you feel really accepted, but then they turn out not to be the best people, and they actually make you into a worse person until you choose to use that, what makes you different, to not lash out at those who have hurt you, but rather to be a better person. And that's really the story of the film, is, those who are bullied can be better people and can overcome that. And vengeance isn't always the answer. Am I done?
That's up to you.
Okay.
Now he's done.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Let's, last but not least, let's move on to Jody.
All right. Kevin, honestly, I feel bad for you because my 2 fellow contestants here have picked terrible movies. I don't know why they've been bothered. The movie I picked was a 1992 classic known as The League of Their Own.
A classic?
Yes. Oh, classic, and I'll tell you why in a minute. This movie stars Tom Hanks, of course, but yeah, you can all you want. I'll prove it. Gina Davis, Madonna, Rosie O'Donnell, as well as Lori Petty. This is a movie about essentially the starting of a female baseball league because their men counterparts were off fighting a war. It's full of laughs. The chemistry is fantastic among all the people in it. This was also a movie that was directed by Penny Marshall, obviously somebody who definitely knows female comedy. And this is a movie that was so significant that the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress has made this a movie that has been is for preservation in the United States Archive for being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. And I do quote that. This is a movie that is by far better than the other 2 picks. So I don't even know. I don't even need to even argue this anymore. It's entertaining. It's great.
Good. Don't.
The Craft. What the fuck?
You don't have to. You can take him off. He's done.
All right.
Yeah, you can take me off.
Let's ask
Please.
Between Jody and Dave. What makes The Craft better than A League of Their Own? It's
more in the spirit of the question that it's more a proper female ensemble film. My argument against A League of Their Own is that it's not a purely female ensemble film. Tom Hanks is a major part of that ensemble, and he's a male. So you can't just pull him out of the story easily or at all, right? It's like
there's no men in your movie at all.
There's no men in main character roles. No, they're all secondary or tertiary.
I didn't know it had to be all female cast.
Yeah,
it says mostly there.
It says a mostly female cast.
Yeah.
Mine's all female. Yours is only mostly. And so,
the entire fucking movie is about women.
But it's not it's the female ensemble is not pure.
It is an ensemble. It's an entire team.
Not pure. My whole team's women.
And on top of that, half your point was it's like Mean Girls. Why didn't you just fucking pick Mean Girls?
Well, because it's not as good as The Craft. And
you are totally wrong.
It's got less witchcraft.
Yes, it does have less witchcraft. I'll give you that.
It's got less Nev Campbell, too. I'm a big Nev Campbell fan.
That is not a good point.
Nev Campbell, Canadian treasure.
Treasure. All right.
Oh, okay. That was interesting. Okay, let's go.
He's passionate.
Jody,
there's nothing wrong with that.
What makes A League of Their Own better than Bridesmaids?
Have you seen the movie?
Yes, I have, but I
Okay, you've
I'm
seen
not
both these
allowed
movies.
to use my own.
I will
opinion
tell you right
because-
now, between Dave's answer and Chris's answer, I would definitely pick Chris's. That Bridesmaid is a fantastically funny movie. Is it the best movie? No. It's there's a lot of movies like it. Mean Girls being one of them. It's well, it's very similar comedy. Overall, it's just a better movie. This is a movie that the National Archive has archived because it's such a good fucking movie. Like, they don't do that for every movie. Okay, like neither of those two are ever going to be archived in the National Archives. This is a movie that is not only a good movie, good ensemble cast, but it also tells the story fantastically. This is a story following Gina Davis, really, but this is a story that follows her life through the career for the one season that she plays, but her sister goes on and continues to play, and then it all wraps up nicely at the end when they show the actual exhibit from the Baseball Hall of Fame for these women who
where Tom Hanks is featured prominently, and he's dead.
Tom Hanks was also a baseball player previous to
him
joining the team. I still don't understand why you're so straight. It even says mostly. It says mostly right there, Dave. Like, this is
well, mine's more.
All right.
I got more most than you. That's all.
It does say it does.
You
say
have
most.
3 or 4
All right.
players in your entire cast. I have way more than that.
Chris, do you have a rebuttal to that? To that
Well,
at all? What
To
makes
this train wreck?
Bridesmaids? What makes Bridesmaids better than either of these movies?
Just because it's sheer comedy factor, and I don't think it's like Mean Girls at all.
It is very funny.
If you wanted to compare it to another movie, I would say it's like the female version of The Hangover. I don't think it's like Mean Girls.
Can I ask a question, Kevin? Is it the funniest movie with a female ensemble cast, or is it just any good movie with an ensemble cast?
Any
Okay.
good movie?
Just wanted to be clear on that. That's all.
I have seen A League of Their Own, and fucking Jody is on here week after week bashing baseball.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Baseball is terrible. Don't get me wrong.
Every time
It
he
is
says
absolutely terrible. I agree.
arguing
But it's a fantastic movie.
All about
I just
baseball?
watched it this morning again.
with Chris on this.
Yeah, and actually, but Dave,
Who the fuck watches The Craft?
honestly,
All right, I've made a
never-
decision. I'm ready to move on.
All right.
Craft is a better film.
Hey,
When-
respect the host. He said we're done.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this to Jody.
Thank you.
All right,
Hold
Is
on
there
to your hats,
sounds
Dave. I
after
got
that?
more.
there we go.
Normally I pick on Chris. I'm going to pick on Dave this episode.
Chris is like, he thought the funniest thing in this movie was when someone took a dump in the middle of the street. Apparently,
Yeah, not the best talking point.
that was hilarious.
That's literally the only good part of the movie.
what could be funnier?
Is it?
All right, let's move on to TV. What is I know
Ding, ding,
of Dave's love for? Are we gonna do the ding? All right.
Oh, there it is.
It's just a delay. It's on a delay.
All right. I know of Dave's love for reality TV shows, so he might have a bit of an advantage here.
Very much so, I think.
What
yeah.
is the worst reality TV show? And let's start with Dave.
Okay. So I could have picked something very obscure because there have been a ton of reality TV shows especially over the last 20 years. Survivor being the one I think that is the most known as being something that broke through into primetime, into a major network staple. And then there was a slew of them that came after. Like there's Joe Millionaires and these ones that weren't successful. But the one that I think is the silliest evolution of reality TV shows is Tough as Nails. Now, this is a relatively new show, but it is a big show for CBS at the moment. It is hosted by Phil Keoghan, whatever how you say his name. He's from The Amazing Race, that guy from New Zealand, but he sounds very American. It's his pet project. And basically what it is, if you've ever seen Survivor, you know that they do like those competitions, usually the two tribes competing against each other and like who can do this obstacle course or whatever. It's like stuff like that, but with like working class, like contractors and truck drivers and whatever. Like, let's take a wheelbarrow full of nails across a beam over there. And I just think the reason I don't like it is I'm like, this is like the stupidest thing I've ever seen. It's like, let's do Survivor on a construction site, like who can drywall the fastest or who can like polish their floors faster or whatever. Like it's basically like, how can we take like housework and make it a competition? And I'm against it, and it's a disgrace to the reality TV show pantheon that is almost untouched by CBS. But this is a stinker for CBS, and I do not understand its popularity. That's my point.
All right, Dave, you did not disappoint. All right.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Jody.
All right. So I'm not somebody who watches a lot of these things, but I did happen to catch this one. I picked the Anna Nicole show. So for people that don't really too familiar with Anna Nicole, she was a Playboy model who ended up basically marrying a sugar daddy, waiting for him to die so she could get a lot of money. This show was kind of done in a way where they set up a situation, and she was not known to be the smartest cookie. And that's probably an understatement. But they basically, this was a reality show where the producers would essentially put her in a situation and see how she reacts. It's ridiculous. It is probably the most it's offensive really to women, I think, for the most part. Like this woman was just chock full of fail to begin with, and they just threw her in situations where she would fail more. Like she goes to a dating service, or participates in a game show, stuff like that, and they put her in situations where she would have to react essentially. Overall, terrible show to watch. You literally can feel yourself getting stupid just by watching the show. It was so bad. At times I actually felt bad for myself. It was just that bad to watch. It was terrible, and the subject matter was terrible too.
All right.
Ding ding. There we go. I'm good.
All right. Let's hear Chris's answer.
So I'm not a reality TV connoisseur either. But you know what show I don't like is Storage Wars. The premise, it's stupid.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the worst part. That Dave Hessler guy, I don't know, he'll just be standing in the back.
Yep.
Must be his name, Dave.
Must be his name, Dave. You know what? There's maybe 5 main characters, I guess, on that show. Jared and Brandy are always fighting with each other, and it's just so scripted. It's unbelievable. It's not reality TV at all. They make it come off as reality TV. It's been even. It's come out that items have actually been planted in certain storage containers, so that there's something exciting in there to find. So the show is not even exciting enough on its own that they have to actually plant items to make it more exciting. It's just terrible. I can't even watch it. What amazes me too is there is the 5 main characters, and there's 100 people that show up for this fucking auction. And why do one of those 5 always win it? It doesn't make any sense.
Maybe it's not really a reality show.
Somebody should beat them. It's supposed to be a reality show. Anyways, just terrible. Can't watch it.
All right. Right in at the buzzer. I don't even know what questions to ask. I'm afraid of angering. I'm afraid of angering Dave.
Use the force.
Use
the force.
I got a couple comments.
All right, let's go with your comments, Dave.
Okay, so I'm going to start with Storage Wars because I don't disagree with a lot of what Chris is saying about the show, that they have to manufacture a lot of it, that the personalities on it are, I don't know, I find them entertaining, but after a while you're like, oh, I don't need to watch this anymore. And you can only watch so much of that show, period. But I worked in a storage facility. I know what the ins and outs are and what goes on with these auctions. The truth is that this is very sad stuff. Most of this time, this is stuff that's been left by people who have lost their jobs, who people have died, can't afford it anymore. And here we are, and basically these are the pirates, right? Who are taking advantage of that pain. I'm that's probably helping Chris's point.
Because, yeah, it is quite a bit, Dave.
You're basically saying they exploit people. which is essentially what my show is too. But
that doesn't make it the worst because it's still fun. It has a lot of catchphrases. We know those names of those people because yep, and all that because they are entertaining. So that takes away from the worst quality of it. On the Anna Nicole Smith one, I think it's just too obscure. It's old. It's dated. Who even remembers her anymore and any of that
everybody
stuff.
remembers that show. Come on.
Yeah, that was like tabloid stuff when I was in high school, and it's just.
Well, I am older than you, Dave.
I could have picked like really obscure, weird reality shows, and I feel like this is almost in that category, or it kind of really.
But you did. I've never even heard of your show.
Tough as Nails. Oh, it's a big one right now.
All right, let's hear Jody's comments on either of these.
My show is about exploiting a really stupid woman. That's really what my entire show is about, and it's just god awful. Like, it doesn't paint a good picture of women at all. It's very manipulative. It's just garbage. It's total fucking garbage. And this woman, 3-4 years after the last episode aired, she killed herself. Like, she died. Like, it's well, I guess they don't know for sure, but anyway, she overdosed, I believe, is how she actually died. But like, no one cares about Anna Nicole, and no one really cared then, but they still watched it, and it was all about exploit. It went 3 seasons, for Christ's sake. This train wreck went 3 seasons. That is garbage. Absolute garbage.
All right, well, Chris, do you have anything to say
about Jody's show? Honestly, I've never seen it. It sounds terrible, though.
You're probably better off not seeing it.
Yeah, it sounds terrible.
I was with a woman at a time that really enjoyed it.
So I do think this is between me and Jody, because the way that Dave described
I agree completely.
The way that Dave described his show I've never seen it either, but I really want to now. I want to see like people.
It sounds more like a game show to me. It sounds like a reality show,
right? Like, this is the pain I feel. It's like, oh, I want to see who can, whatever, toe the most.
I want to see that.
But so, Dave, sorry, I'm not really clear on the concept. So essentially, it's like a game show where they do like household activities, like vacuum.
It's like competitions, like the Survivor tribal competitions they do.
That doesn't sound great. I'm with them on that one.
Like, they're competing on who can drywall the fastest and shit.
Yeah, like for instance, or like they do like relay races, or I was just like, what have we become? That this is what people want to watch.
Sounds like it's a game show,
right? It's more. Well, they're all game showy. Not all.
And Nicole wasn't game show.
Nicole was not. That's more like documentary, right? Or style reality.
And I don't even think Chris's is a game show. Really, it's
no. So there's reality game shows which are more of the big, or reality like competitions, like to win some kind of prize, like Amazing Race, Survivor, Big Brother, whatever. But these are shows where you're kind of looking in on the lives of people. Jody's show is about real life, like gold digging crazy woman who was a very celebrity, died tragically. Chris's is less reality because it's like, to my point, it's not showing us the darker side of what's going on there, but is still a more well-known, established, cult following show. Has several spin-offs, so is a success.
Sounds like I win then. Why are we still talking about this?
All right, I'm ready. And I disagree with both Jody and Chris. I'm going to give this to Dave. He has best argument, most passion, and that sounds like a horrific show.
Yeah, and it's popular.
It doesn't sound fun, that's for sure.
And Kevin, you do that for a living.
Yes, that's probably why I'm horrified by it.
I think we should sign you up for the next season.
You could probably win.
Yeah, you might be able to win.
All right. Maybe. Are we doing the ding ding? There we go.
Guys,
all right, on to the music.
Up. The controller is still learning all the process.
Yeah.
Lighten up.
I just don't want to start without.
All right.
I don't want to start too early. All right, the music category. We all know drum solos suck. Yes. But what song has the best drum solo? And we'll start with Jody.
Van Halen, Hot for Teacher. 30-second drum solo right at the beginning, and it's actually awesome. I like it. It's actually one of the first drum solos that they train people with. It's a very common thing to be trained on. And I actually got that as a fact because I have a friend who plays drums, and that's the first thing he learned. So that's all I have to say. It's just it's a good drum solo. I like it. It starts off the song really cool. Past that, that's about it. I can't really argue my point any further because I don't know anybody else's picks.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for your consideration. Don't worry, I'll come back and argue. It's fine.
Oh, I know.
All right, let's move on to Chris. Best drum solo.
Okay, I went with a song you guys probably haven't heard, unless Kevin happened to
I
look it
have.
up.
I have.
You have?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I don't know what it
Actually-
is yet, so I can't tell you.
My choice was Chocolate Chip Trip by Tool. Just came out
I
last
should know
year.
that.
This came out last year, end of August 2019. Second last song on the new album, Fear Inoculum. What I love about this song is the entire song is drum solo. There's no other instruments in the song. There's a
Then
little
how
bit.
is it the best drum solo then?
The,
The whole song is that. That's terrible.
No, it's awesome. Like it's all offbeat. I think they use like the Fibonacci sequence and shit in there. Like
Very common.
Danny Carey when he's playing the drums, he's just like an octopus. I can't understand how one man can get this much sound out of drums, and that's why he's my pick. So Danny Carey doing Chocolate Chip Trip by Tool. The reason the song's called that, if you care,
I do.
I don't.
I
If
do.
you've heard that album, it's full of 10-minute plus songs. So they called it Chocolate Chip Trip just because they wanted to shorten it up. It's only 4 minutes and 50 seconds long, just to give the audience something to chew on.
I think the best
All
drum
right.
solo should be the shortest one. Personally.
All right, well, let's move on to Dave's pick then.
Well, I think Jody might have just helped me, so I'm very happy because if the best drum solo is the shortest one, then I think that I might be in contention here because my argument tonight is for "In the Air Tonight" by Phil Collins. No,
Amazing drum solo.
amazing. Now, this is an amazing song by Phil Collins, who is a drummer first from the terrific band Genesis, and he seems to have it invisible touch, yeah. Right, and then "In the Air Tonight." There was recently a video where these two kids from the States somewhere, I don't know where, they have their little YouTube channel. They were listening to "In the Air Tonight" by Phil Collins for the very first time. Right, they had never heard it before, had no idea who Phil Collins was, and they're listening to it, and they're like, "Okay, I'm digging this." And then all of a sudden, right, like, we can hear it coming in the air tonight, right? And they're like, "Whoa, who drops a beat 3 minutes into a song, man? What a payoff!" And the energy and the how contagious that was, like, just inspired me to argue for that today. Now, yes, there's still a little bit of like under track there, but like it's very minimal, right? Like when Phil Collins finally unleashes in that song, which is all about a friend dying, right? It's all, and losing and then loss, that feeling sort of builds on you until it hits you. And that's what I really love about it. I think the emotional impact of that drum solo on the song is perfect.
I have plenty of rebuttal.
Yeah, but let's start with Chris. What
All right.
what makes, now that you know their answers, what makes Chocolate Chip Trip better than either of those two?
Well, Dave's song, first of all, has about 8 beats in the whole drum solo.
It's the shortest one.
Like it is definitely the shortest one. I don't even know if I'd call it a solo. Like if
No.
I
I would.
It's just part of the song.
If I pick up my guitar and play you 8 notes, did I just play you a fucking solo?
No. I completely agree with Chris's point on it. And actually, I was going to say that, but he got to it first. Good for you, Chris.
Chocolate Chip Trip is just, you know what? It sticks out to me. Sometimes I have the CD in my car all the time. Sometimes I'll just
You have
play that
CDs.
before work because the CD. Listen, this Tool CD is actually really exciting. It came with its own
That's not a win, Ashley.
It came in with its own LCD screen and everything. It's a really cool CD. So it's one that's actually worth buying.
I was also doing the air drums. In air tonight.
Mr. Host, I would like you to
Because you were able to.
I would like you to consider what he just did as a bad thing.
Yeah. If you listen to the song that I chose, I don't think you could even air drum to it. You don't have enough arms to air drum.
Well, then it's definitely not the best drum solo if you can't air drum to it.
Oh, it is definitely the best. It is complicated. It's got a lot of
5-4 time.
I'm just waiting for my turn.
All right, Jody, you go.
All right, I'm going to make this really quick. No one's heard of his, and I'm talking about Chris's. No one knows it. Anybody here know this other than Chris?
Nope.
I do.
Well, Kevin would, yeah. I like Tool, but I haven't even listened to the new album yet because I just don't care that much. As for Dave, I'm with Chris's comment. It was the first thing I was going to say was it's not a solo. There's no solo there. It's a cool beat, but there's no solo. And I think the reason why I know this is because TikTok people use it all the time to do stupid videos where they like slam cupboards and shit. Well, you know what? The cupboards sound better. It's you know what? It's an iconic part of the song. I'll definitely give you that. But is it a drum solo? No. As for Chris's, honestly, I haven't heard it. I may have heard it and just didn't realize it. But that probably leads me to believe why it isn't the best drum solo ever, because I don't remember it, nor do I hear it, and whatever.
No, it's not radio play.
What's that?
It doesn't get radio play.
Well, then it's definitely not the best drum solo ever. My song, however, radio play through the ass. It's all over the place. Any oldies station will play it. And it's an iconic song, from the 80s. Like, it's, who doesn't know Hot for Teacher? Everybody here knows Hot for Teacher.
I know Hot
Let's
for
be
Teacher.
honest.
But
All right, Dave, what do you have?
And everybody knows that intro, too.
What do you have for a rebuttal, Dave?
sure, I know the song Hot for Teacher, but I never even knew it had a drum solo at the beginning. Like, that was news to me. And
you don't know the song.
Well, I think I did, but and they play this drum solo at the beginning.
Jamil. I love Jamil.
Chris, get in there, fight, damn it.
Get in there, fight.
Like I don't know. It just seems incredibly not memorable. And I don't think of
It's basic teaching for pretty much any professional drummer.
Yeah, and the other thing was we said that the best solo would be the shortest, so that we all know that drum solo.
I didn't say that. I'm judging.
No,
and
I
I
said
didn't
that.
say that.
So
I said that. You did.
30-second solo is like an eternity. Like I haven't heard
solo. That's what solo means. It's what
Doesn't
you hear.
have to. Solo can be very.
Yours isn't even a solo. It's got backing music on it.
It's a Han Solo, baby. It's
It's a Han Solo. That's what you're going for, eh? All right.
Who shot first?
We had to go to Star Wars.
Yeah, and then for Chris.
Well, I enjoy drum solo, so that's why I picked the longest one.
Like Chris is looking for some kind of
I can't
weird
judge it because I don't know it.
metaphysical existence with music, right? Like some kind of science experiment. That doesn't make it the best. It just so I don't like Phil Collins, In the Air Tonight. Everybody knows that song. Everybody knows that solo. It is a solo. It's just a very short solo. It's a Han solo.
It's not a solo. And Van Halen was
It's
never
fucking 8 beats.
We don't know for a
All
fact it's beats. That's what Chris said.
All right, I'm ready. It's Chris.
Thank God.
And oddly, it's
Good job,
Chris
Chris.
because I hate Chocolate Chip Trip. I love that album, and that song is a blight on that album. I hate it. But you argued better. When you
Good job,
said,
Chris.
Dave, your solo is 8 beats, that was it. Dave was done. Even with all the passion.
That was a very good comment.
All right.
All tied up.
And Jeff said the same thing to me the other night when I told them what I was going to argue for everything. They were like, "You're going to lose."
You know what, though, Dave? At least you're man enough to admit it.
All right.
But I didn't change it. I stuck with it. I stuck
That's
with
right.
what I had.
You stuck with your guns. That's good.
All right.
Even if you were wrong.
Let's go with sports. Which sport is the most exciting to attend in person? And we'll go back to Chris to start.
Well, there's not many sports you can attend in person right now, but let's say you could. I am going to have to go with WWE wrestling. The reason I chose it.
Really?
Sorry,
What do you
I
laughing
should
at?
mute my mic.
Wait, it's Chris's time.
You know what? Going to I remember as a kid going to the Sky Dome for WrestleMania 3, I think it was. I was like 8 years old. It was the most fantastic thing ever. Going to back then it was called the WWF. But you know what? For a kid, it's like going to a rock concert. Like when you hear the Hulk Hogan music come out and you're like 8 years old, and then he comes out and does this, and everybody's holding a sign. There's so much excitement. There's flashes going off everywhere. The music is so loud. We know it's scripted. Even as an 8-year-old, I knew that. But it was the excitement of being there, hearing the people cheering. It's most exciting to attend in person. I think for overall the value for your money and excitement at a sporting event, it has to be WWE wrestling, hands down.
All right. Thank you, Chris. I don't remember who I went with last time. Let's just go with Dave.
Okay. So I think that when you think about what sport is the best to watch live, I think it comes down to how are you going to experience that versus in live versus TV. And that's not just seeing it with a crowd, but I think it's also being able to like view the game. Some sports just work better than others. And I'll get to my rebuttal on Chris, which I'm not going to use that time now. My pick is baseball. And I don't even baseball is not even my favorite sport. I'm definitely a hockey guy. I would rather watch hockey than baseball in general. However, I think that baseball is a better experience live versus TV because on TV, baseball, I don't like that they show it from behind the pitcher down to the catcher. That's to me a natural way to watch baseball. I want to see the whole field. I want to see all 9 players. I want to see how they're positioning. I want to see how I want to see the whole experience. And I get that live. With hockey, even though I think it's the better game to watch, I can see it on TV just fine. Being there is actually a deterrent. It actually, like, depending on where you're sitting, it could actually be a worse experience for you, especially if you're behind just one of the nets up in the upper decks. Baseball, like it varies from park to park, but you basically get a much better viewing experience there. Now, you could say the same thing about football, but you can't say that about football because football is so stop and go that you can't necessarily feel that. Plus,
All right. Let's go with Jody.
When I think of a sport that's exciting, I think of what drives the human brain to be excited. And when I think of that, I think of the carnal, just brutalness of mixed martial arts or UFC for some people as well. This is a sport where you put 2 people who could have completely different ability sets and they get to pound the shit out of each other. This goes right down to our basics. A lot of people, now some people don't enjoy this, and to be quite honest, I'm not totally up on it, but it is something that I have seen in before. I have gone to a live event, but it wasn't a UFC one. And it is just, it's carnal. It's us to our lowest denominator. It's just fighting. It's just, balls to the wall, beat the shit out of the other guy, blood fucking, bruises everywhere. It's not as, in my opinion, sparring as like boxing would be, for instance. It's very, there's a lot of technique to it, but everybody can have a completely different technique. There is certain things they're not allowed to do, but for the most part, it's pretty open. It's quite brutal to watch actually at times. And let's be honest, exciting and brutal are 2 things that just go together in the human brain for the most people. So that's why I think it's the most exciting.
All right.
Beep, beep.
yeah, you were.
I'll do it because I was short.
All right, Dave. You got a rebuttal. You said you had a rebuttal for Chris?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, he picked wrestling, and I love wrestling too. And it's not an unentertaining experience. But we're talking about a sport here, not an entertainment. Cirque du Soleil, while athletic, is not a sport, and wrestling, like professional wrestling,
You don't think
is like,
aerobatics is a sport? Really?
like it's not a sport. No, it's athletic. It's an athletic competition, but a sport is different. And wrestling is definitely not a sport. Like professional wrestling specifically, not Greco-Roman wrestling. That is a sport, but because you're competing against somebody. Now with UFC, like I don't like UFC. That's not really my point here. Like UFC is not a good live experience. It's not even a good TV experience because most of the fights are their technique, so they're mostly not hitting each other. This is a UFC fight. Because they know if they get one punch.
I don't know what you watch, but
I my rebuttal. So and then because and then the rest of the time they're on the ground just in like a chokehold, right? Like you're like, okay, this is boring, right? You might see something exciting eventually.
Oh, I am gonna rip you apart in a minute.
Go fucking ahead. You got it.
You want to talk boring?
Yes.
You picked baseball. I could go take a fucking shit for 30 goddamn minutes and not miss a fucking thing in that game. Not one thing could I miss. I could take a 30-minute shit and not miss a thing in your sport. Okay? A fat guy like me can play your fucking sport and be efficient at it. That is not a sport. Okay? Plain and simple. As for Chris's, I'm kind of with Dave on this one. It's borderline sport at best. I just looked up the definition of sport. It does not apply to wrestling. I'm sorry, so I'm definitely with Dave on that one. But baseball, boring as fuck. How the hell is that exciting? Like once in a while, somebody does something. Like Christ, like once in a while, there's a light. You know, like
it happens in your sport. Tell me what happens in your sport all the time. It's nonstop action.
The shit out of each other. How is that not exciting?
Especially live when I'm on the floor looking up through a cage, right?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
You know why the cage is there? So the fight doesn't get to you.
Right,
but it's there for that.
Be a good live experience.
It's like watching a bar fight in real time. It's amazing.
Bar fights are much more fun to watch. Like, no, it's like watching. It's like watching like a dance. Like you're talking about
You're not dancing, pal. I hate to break it to you.
Like,
And if
it's
you dance
at least
like that with your lovely bride, don't do that because she ain't gonna like it.
At least in certain baseball games, yeah. Like sometimes baseball can be dull. I'm not going to argue it
all the time. Baseball can be dull.
Sometimes it's very exciting. You can have like a game that's like 12-12. It happens all the time, every season, and those games are exciting. The more home runs, the more action you see. But if you're a fan of the game, then you're going to be able to see that great defense. You're going to be able to see the anticipation of that infielder as he's
People go to watch it in real time so they can drink. That is the reason.
All right, Chris. They've levied the accusation on you that that WWE isn't a sport. What do you have to say to that?
Well, it's sports entertainment. And sports entertainment is a sport as well. You know, these guys have to train for this. It's not like they just come out there and they're unprepared. Sure, it's scripted. Sure, they know what's going to happen. But it's still athletic. And as in terms of being the most exciting, it's similar to MMA in that there's two people fighting, but it's more like. It gets the crowd more involved. There's music playing while it's going on. It's more rowdy. It's like a friggin' soap opera.
It's definitely a show.
Yeah, it's a show. It's a soap opera for men. People are holding up their signs. Everyone's excited. Kids love it. Parents love it. Parents love to take their kids. And Dave chose baseball.
You watch baseball, Chris. You watch baseball all the time.
On TV, I don't want to go.
All right, I'm gonna make.
There you go.
I think I'm going to make my decision, but I'm going to have to give an explanation. Dave won this round. To my shock and horror, Dave won this round.
I definitely require an explanation.
He had the best arguments. He really laid out why.
What did he argue?
It's like
it's a better experience.
To him, it's the experience of going to see the game is more rich because you see more of what's going on. That surprised me. And UFC is pretty boring too. I find as well. Like
It's not for everyone.
no. And sorry, Chris, but it's not a sport. It's
Just because
I thought
girls watch
maybe-
Suits, it was. But,
I thought maybe you argued well, though. I'll tell you, you did.
he did.
Sports
You
entertainment.
should get at least a half point for that.
Next round.
Anyway, good job, Dave.
All right, moving on to history. Which ancient culture was the most advanced? And by that, I don't mean just technologically, but also as a whole, politically or socially or whatever. And I forget now. Am I starting with Dave? I think.
I went first
Dave.
last time.
Yeah, I'll go
You
first.
went? Okay, Dave.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I'm going with the Athenians, the Greeks, specifically today, for a couple main reasons. They were the originators of democracy, and that democracy has carried throughout the world to this day. It is one of our fundamental human values. That it varies from country to country, but I'd say widely. We accept democracy in our world today as something that is right and just. They were also socially progressive in terms of sexuality and homosexuality, where that was much more widely accepted. Centuries, thousands of years before our culture the Western culture at least, would widely accept it in the here and now. As we know, that was not the case, especially when we were growing up. Even so, that's sort of like they were ahead of their time in both of those ways. Plus, their technological feats were notable. Now, I know that that's not the only aspect of the question, but they were very innovative in terms of aqueducts and different infrastructures and the buildings that they constructed. Plus, a lot of those like statues and things like that are emulated in like Washington D.C. today. Like come from the Greeks. That imagery of their designs. And I got a few. I thought it was gonna be quick, but actually I have a lot to say about them. And finally, the Greeks also gave us this amazing mythology and their gods and their stories and storytelling.
All right. Moving on to Jody.
I picked ancient China. And the reason why I picked it is because they not only inventions are extremely vast, of which a lot of what Dave said actually they invented, such as, for instance, brick. Brick is something that they invented. Paper, a good way of doing paper. Paper printing as well. Gunpowder, compasses, whole slew of stuff. Just inventions alone. There's a lot of things to. Obviously, there's no way I can even attempt to summarize what they did in the short period of time. But just if you even go on inventions alone, this is a culture that was far more advanced. 4400 BC, they were doing things that wouldn't be thought of for another 3,000 years in some other cultures. Just overall, very innovative. They did have various types of government, which we won't bother really getting into now, but the overall, just without ancient China, we wouldn't have 3/4 of what we have now, because they did a lot of stuff first. Ding ding.
All right. All right, Chris, I'm quite interested to hear your answer.
Now I am too.
Well, I went with the Sentinelese.
Okay.
Don't know if you know a lot about these people. Nobody really knows a lot about them. Here's the thing. They live in North Sentinel Island. It's just off the coast of India. And they have been around for centuries. But the reason nobody knows anything about them really is because anyone who tries to go there, they kill. There have been people ever since the 1600s, 1700s. They would go up there in their boats. They would drop off gifts for these people. These people would come out of the forest. They'd come out of their little huts. They'd grab their gifts, and then they'd fucking kill you. And they'd kill anybody. And the reason I think they're advanced and they're probably happy people, they're still there. You can try and go there now if you want to, but they're going to kill you.
And this
No.
is the most advanced culture.
Well, you know what? They're survivors. People estimate there's between 50 and 200 of them, but nobody really knows for sure. And I guarantee you they have no COVID.
I like that ending.
All right.
Well done, Dave.
You don't have to
Well
wait for
done.
the time to go. Yeah.
Well
Oh
done.
my god. All right.
I
So,
can't see how you'll win this, but
Yeah, we're
Well
gonna. I want to hear Dave and Jody argue. I think Chris maybe didn't understand the question.
I think he understood it just fine.
He's like, what culture is the
He's-
most?
He's trolling us. Like,
I
Yeah.
think this might have been a troll. This could have been a troll.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, was this his first pick?
yes.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
You can look them up. There's a little bit about them.
I don't need
online.
to look them up. They're definitely not the most advanced civilization.
There's not a lot of information about them.
Okay. Well, I think that that if it's coming really down between Greece and China, I think one of Jody's points was that the Chinese invented some things I said that the Greeks invented. I don't know if we can fact check any of that, but if it's
No, I didn't really mean it that way. Sorry. What I meant to say was, like, for instance, to build coliseums, you would need stuff that they invented.
but did they weren't like exchanging technology, China and Greece in ancient times, were they? Like, it's not like
Well,
the
there's
Greeks
a
built-
little bit of difference in years there. Yeah.
yeah, it's not like the Greeks got brick from Chinese or anything like that, right? Like it's
They got the recipes and stuff. Yeah, probably.
they did okay, like maybe like I don't know, but like I think China is an interesting one. It's it's very it's got a very rich, diverse, well, and like strong, like well recorded history.
Another thing because they invented paper and the ability to print. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay. And hey,
That's probably why they have a good
That's
history.
important.
Yep.
I guess
Sure.
mine's more mine were more philosophical. Mine were more like social progress ideas, and so I guess like I don't know how you weight those against each other, like who invented bricks versus who invented democracy, but like they're both important. You need bricks to build things. I just think that in terms like even the word democracy is comes from Greek, right? So it's their influence on at least Western culture is extremely profound.
Well, I think yeah, politically, I think definitely they have the advantage. But when you're building an ancient culture, when you're building everything around it, stuff like paper, for instance, none of your Greek gods and whatnot would really be all that beneficial nowadays if we didn't have paper, and if we didn't have the ability to print presses and stuff like that. So
the Greeks had
gunpowder, for
scrolls.
instance.
If
it wasn't for gunpowder, we wouldn't have a lot of wars. So maybe that was a bad
True.
thing. But
yeah.
but we had wars before gunpowder. So
Oh shit! I don't know.
Decentralized
Chris,
Chris,
what do you think about their answers? I don't want to hear about your answer. I want to know what you think about their answer. Help me decide.
Well, they both got strong points. They both contributed a lot. The fact that the word democracy comes from Greek doesn't matter, really. A lot of our words come from Greek. Like our words don't come from China.
Well, Chinese words do.
Chinese
words do.
English
Zen.
words generally don't.
But I don't think that's the whole point that Dave's making here. It's just it happens to be the fact that democracy and stuff like that, like like more modernism, democracy, and various ways of running government is what he's trying to say.
Sexuality and philosophy too, right? Like all of those things. Like they were like our idea culture. They are like one of the most well regarded, well taught ancient cultures in our history books, and there's a reason for that because their accomplishments are so vast. Like their influence on the Roman Empire that came after it was extreme, and that has permeated throughout time. So I know it's not about who had the biggest impact on history; it's about who was the most advanced. But I think like from a social progress standpoint, I don't think that there's a culture that can match it in ancient times.
All right.
I don't know if I totally agree with that, but all right.
All right, I'm gonna go with Dave on this one because I think
Yeah.
he did more. Like everything you said, Jody, was sort of technological advancements, and
Well,
Kevin did-
there's no way I can summarize what
yeah.
China did as quick as he could. So,
And
no way.
Chris, seriously, you picked a culture that just murders people on site.
That's how I want to live.
Very
Pretty
That's
efficient,
the
though.
most advanced is the culture that murders you on site without
Well, nobody fucks with them.
they can't get clothes.
No,
They can't get clothes because they don't have anything.
Nobody will trade with them.
Yeah, pottery is another thing that China invented. Yep.
Oh,
Naked
All right.
and killing people. That's how I want to live.
Dave is definitely in the lead.
yeah.
I think I'm in the speed now, so I don't need this necessarily.
That's okay because I'm winning this one.
We gotta win this one.
All right. What is the worst deli meat you can actually get from the deli counter at the grocery store, and spam doesn't count? And
it's not deli
Jody
meat.
first.
Head cheese. Mic drop. I'm done. It's fucking garbage. You know what? You want the quality of Jello with meat? There's your head cheese. It's made out of mostly meat parts of the head of cows or lambs or whatever they decide they're going to throw in the grinder at that point. Well, not always grinder, actually. Sometimes it's just whole pieces, which is a lot of fun. They'll use pretty much anything from the head of pretty much any animal to make head cheese. It's more of a category than a one thing. But, head cheese obviously is very much associated with that. Gelatin and meat together. I don't even know how to explain that any worse. If you've ever had it, it's not fun, and it just looks disgusting. There's nothing appetizing about it. I could have come up with worse things, but then you would have to go to specialty grocers. So I figured the nature of the question was my normal grocery store, so that's why I went with head cheese. But head cheese it's fucking gross, plain and simple.
All right.
Ding ding.
All right, moving on to Chris. What's the worst deli meat?
Okay, I went with macaroni and cheese loaf.
No, that stuff's delicious.
If you look at this macaroni and cheese loaf, it looks disgusting. It doesn't even look it looks more disgusting than head cheese.
You are blind.
Head cheese is a delicacy. I think they eat it a lot in Poland.
It's a very European thing, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a very European thing. Honestly, I've never tried it, so I don't know if it's good or not. But I have had macaroni and cheese loaf. And listen, how can you get something that's more processed than that? Like, I don't know what kind of meat it is in the first place. But then you've got macaroni and cheese mixed into it. Like,
but at least those are all foods that are normal. Gelatin is gross.
I've never I don't know if it's beef or pig. Like, I've never looked at a piece of beef.
It's usually bologna with macaroni in it. And
yeah, but
stuff like that. Yeah.
Bologna even? I don't.
Well, bologna could be really anything.
It's just to me, it seems so incredibly processed. It has to be. It has to be like this vat of mush that just gets pressurized together to make this macaroni and cheese loaf. Disgusting stuff.
Well, most processed lunch meat is processed. That's why it's processed. So yeah.
Understand what head cheese? There's like recipes out there for it. You can make it at home.
Oh, you can make anything at home, technically. That's not really the point.
All right, Dave.
You ready for this?
I can't wait for Dave. Can't wait for Dave's. It's going to be literally like the most mainstream thing ever.
Wait for my argument. Okay,
Right.
before you
I'll
tear it apart. Okay, I'm going with roast beef. Now,
all right.
now I know it's funny because compared to the two you just heard about, but I wasn't thinking about head cheese and macaroni and cheese loaf because to me those are not normal deli meats. I never had a luncheon at work and said, "Okay, let's order some deli sandwiches. Make sure we have a head cheese. Make sure we have a macaroni and cheese loaf option." No, never. These are not like these are eaten by people who love that from the country or whatever. But it's with roast beef. Of the mainstream meats, like your roast beefs, your corned beefs, your turkeys, chickens, whatever. Like these, roast beef is the greatest disservice to the original meat, right? Like, if you're going to take a piece of beef, you ought as well cure it, right? That's why we love cured deli meats. When you think of a deli meat, it's cured. But a roast beef is a processed, cooked, flavorless mush. It is like compared to a carved roast beef, which I really love, right? Like a processed roast beef, you can get the slimy kind, you can get the dry kind. The dry kind's better. At least it's closer to real roast beef, but it's still very bad. You have to add condiments to it, whereas the other meats, even like the turkey and the chicken, like they come with more of a smoky flavor, something that makes it unique and more deli-ish. The roast beef is only one that downgrades it. And if you're going to take a piece of beef and turn it into a piece of deli meat, you turn it into a pepperoni or you turn it into a smoked meat.
Oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to ask this question, but Jody, what makes head cheese worse than roast beef?
Kevin, I'm going to make it very easy for time. Everything. I don't need to argue this. Like, roast beef? What are you on? Like, yeah, there is definitely terrible roast beef that you can get from a deli. I would agree with that for sure. But if you've ever had thick cut, fresh roast beef, slow marinated roast beef that you can go buy, that you can get at the deli, it's delightful. I actually eat roast beef without anything else on it. Sometimes I'll have some horseradish on it, but it's in a sandwich, it's not bad with nothing. Like, it's still good. I don't know where you're getting your roast beef, but
real roast beef. I don't like processed
terrible.
roast beef.
Well, processed, yeah, I could agree with that to a degree.
I'd rather eat a roast beef sandwich than a head cheese sandwich. I'm going to concede that point, or a macaroni and cheese loaf
perfect.
Sandwich.
That's all I needed to hear. We're done.
These are not meats at the deli counter, right? Like, maybe like two people order that, right? Like, that's not that. Like, it's not a thing.
The question said, "What meat can you get from the deli counter?" It doesn't say what's popular.
And you basically said they're so bad, only two people eat them, both of these things, and you can get it at the deli counter. Like, you made their points.
Yeah. As for if I can do a rebuttal to Chris's,
yes.
It's essentially bologna with things added. It's not bad. I've had it before. I would eat that. Like macaroni loaf any day over head cheese. Head cheese doesn't look visually appealing. It's not visually appealing at all. It looks like suspended meat particles in gelatin. It's repulsive to look at. As you're eating it, you're like, what is this meat I just bit into? Because it's all random chunks of stuff. It could be part of a brain. It could be part of a cheek. It could be a part of an ear. It's a whole bunch of garbage. It's essentially just garbage put into gelatin and then sold. Whereas Chris is, I guarantee you, I put a head cheese sandwich in front of a kid and I put that meatloaf thing that Chris is talking about. Kids will eat that meatloaf thing 20 times over. No question.
All right,
it's more visually pleasing.
Chris, what do you think about their answers?
I think Jody is
mostly Jody's.
It's okay. It's okay, Dave. You're already in the round anyway.
I don't need this.
Head cheese isn't meant to be for kids. Of course, a kid's not going to eat a head cheese sandwich. Actually, I don't think people even eat head cheese sandwiches. I think
absolutely they do.
Point. That's my
absolutely they do.
It's more of a delicacy. You put it like with the
dude. It's sold as a loaf, and you can get it shaved. What more do you need to know here?
Who are these people?
With a little knife and the crackers, and you eat it like caviar. It's like
that's a different type of head cheese, but yes, it's like there is a version like that where it comes into a tub.
You serve head cheese at like a high-end dinner party.
No, you don't.
Cheese loaf you would not serve at a high-end dinner party.
Well, this isn't about a high-end dinner party. This is about what is the worst deli meat. Clearly is mine. Like, I don't even know why we're discussing this anymore. Roast beef and meatloaf? Like, come on.
I've made my decision.
If it's not me, I'm quitting right now.
You had me at suspended meat particles in gelatin.
Thank you.
It's head cheese.
It's gross.
Because Dave and Chris, you both argued that it was the worst.
Yep.
That was your argument.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, Dave, you might as well have picked the Sentinelese.
Yeah. The Sentinelese actually would have been a better answer for this question.
Although you did make a
Well, Jane said the same thing to me when after I told her my answer. She was like, "No, head cheese." And I go, "Who eats that?" And she goes, "My grandmother and my family." eat it."
There's a lot of people that eat it, especially European.
Don't let them
Like,
feed that
you
to
guys-
me.
I go to
guys both-
Starski's, which is the Polish grocery store. Every time I'm standing there waiting to get deli meats, there's somebody ordering head cheese shaved. I don't know
You guys-
why. It's gross.
Chris and Dave both argued that head cheese is so gross that nobody eats it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I
I was hoping you would catch on to that, but I was going to bring it up if you didn't.
I was like, "This doesn't." I was arguing it didn't count, basically.
all right,
But,
what
you know.
do we
it
got
counts.
for a score? I
got
haven't
one.
been paying
I
attention.
think it's Dave and me in there, but we might have a three-way here. Oh no, it is
So
Dave and me.
it's
I am.
Dave got
leading if
three.
there's a three-way.
Wow, good for you, Dave. You got
Yeah.
like half the
He's
questions.
really
man.
bringing it today. He's got the
He's
passion.
bringing it. He's bringing
Well,
it.
there goes
might win
me.
this. Even his roast beef argument was good.
Yeah, I guess.
completely wrong.
Like as good as a roast beef.
As good
argument
as
could be.
I could make that answer against those two, I think. I mean, but yes.
If it was
All
just
right.
him and Chris, I actually might have gave him the point.
All right. So then we go to speed round. Okay. So ding ding.
So it's me and Dave now, speed round.
All right, movies.
So we're doing it where we get to pick first or pick second, right?
What? How does this work, Kevin?
You just I've got.
We're not doing the yell out thing, are we?
They're open-ended questions. They're not this or that.
Okay.
Okay, but somebody gets picked first, and then somebody gets picked second.
Or does somebody just whoever says their answer first?
Whoever says their answer first gets that
goes
answer.
first.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. What is the best Nicolas Cage movie?
Face Off.
Leaving Las Vegas.
All right, Jody.
Face Off. It's like I don't even know how much more to discuss. Have you ever seen it? It's a masterpiece. It's fantastic. Him and John Travolta, and they have to play each other eventually. It's incredible. It's a movie about a convicted felon who is going through a big type of heist, and then there's a cop who has had his son killed by this guy, blah blah blah, and they end up switching faces essentially with this ridiculous technology, but they end up switching faces and playing the other guy. It's great.
All right, Dave. Leaving Las Vegas.
Leaving Las Vegas, 1996. A great film if you've never seen it. It features Nicolas Cage and Elizabeth Shue. He's an a massive alcoholic who meets Elizabeth Shue. She's a hooker in Las Vegas. And it's the only role that Nicolas Cage won an Oscar for. It was his. He was fantastic in it. He really played that part so well. The emotionality, the performance is incredible. Now, Face Off, a decent film, but like it's a summer blockbuster tentpole film compared to this. This is like a work of art. Like he was fantastic.
Nothing was added to that movie by having Nicolas Cage in it. Nicolas Cage didn't make it good. He just happened to have the part. Face Off is about Nicolas Cage. His mannerisms, everything about him. That's what I love about it. And yes, I would agree though that Leaving Las Vegas is a great movie, but anybody could have been in that role.
No, I strongly
absolutely.
disagree with that. Like it's like that. Like if somebody else could have done it, maybe, and maybe it would have, but it would have been very different. It wouldn't have been that movie. It would have been a different movie because Nicolas Cage is who he is, and he is so unique and
There's
specific.
not much Nicolas Cage in that movie. That's what I'm trying to say. It's
in
a
Leaving
very
Las Vegas?
safe. It's a very safe play with him on that one.
I think that
It's not
Face-Off,
ridiculous,
it's
Nicolas
just
Cage,
him
which
making
is the best
crazy
Nicolas Cage.
eyes and going, woo! That's Nicolas Cage just being Nicolas Cage.
That is exactly the best thing about a Nicolas Cage movie is Nicolas Cage.
But in terms of like movie and his acting, it was Leaving Las Vegas.
All right, Chris. Any thoughts? You want to help me out here?
I really enjoyed both movies, but
They are both good.
yeah.
So
My
no.
personal thought is I like Face Off better, but you got to go on their arguments.
Yeah, going on their arguments is what I'm talking about.
If you want a Nicolas Cage movie, it's got to be a movie that shows Nicolas Cage in Nicolas Cage form, which is nothing better than Face Off.
Like it depends if you want like a movie or like if you
that's
just
what I want.
or if you just like it's like Tom Cruise when he's just Tom Cruise versus Tom Cruise acting is a different experience, right? And when I
That's
just
the
think
difference between these two movies.
I'm not just when I think of the of like what Nicolas Cage's legacy is as an actor, it's Leaving Las Vegas.
It's a great movie. I completely agree, but it's not Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage is Nicolas Cage in Face Off. The crazy motherfucker Nicolas Cage. Love him.
All right, I'm gonna go with Jody. For
Thank you.
No particular reason, I guess. I'm having.
Oh well, that's not fair. It's okay, Dave.
You
That just means
mentioned
we're now tied up.
The crazy Nicolas Cage.
Woohoo! Nicolas Cage.
All right, TV shows. What's the best Canadian TV show?
Like currently, or just like
Any
ever?
of
In
all
history?
time in history.
Can I pick Battlestar Galactica?
No,
Why not?
because it's not Canadian. I don't mean
Canadian.
filmed.
Canadian produced.
It's Canadian produced,
I don't consider that.
so
like,
it has to be like Canadian content then. Is
yeah,
what you're saying.
yeah, it would be considered Canadian
About
content.
Canadians
on-
or that
not
kind of thing?
necessarily, but it would be considered Canadian content under the law. Like how broadcasters have to have a certain amount of Canadian content.
SCTV.
Degrassi.
Ooh, solid.
All
pick.
right, Jody, you're up.
SCTV, for anybody who's not familiar with it, it's the Canadian version of essentially Saturday Night Live. A lot of skit comedy. It's iconic characters. Bob and Doug McKenzie, very very Canadian. You'll be hard pressed to find any Canadian that can't identify who they are. Started some amazing careers, continued a lot of amazing careers as well. John Candy, rest in peace, brilliant comedian. Various other comedians out there, too many to name, and you're talking like Catherine O'Hara, all that. So just overall Canadian to its lowest level. It's Canadian.
Okay, Dave.
Ooh, I hear a kid.
Okay,
All right,
so Degrassi, originally the kids of Degrassi, that became Degrassi Junior High, and then Degrassi High, and then Degrassi The Next Generation. So
Which show are you picking though?
the Degrassi 80s, like junior high to high. So it's the same show. And so
I
it's
disagree.
Why?
Because they're two different shows.
Can I have another 10 seconds?
Sure.
Okay. So it's about high school kids. I'm sorry, I'm off my game now. I've lost my train of thought.
That's exactly how I play this game.
Okay, one second.
Sorry, Dave. I won't talk anymore.
All right. So Degrassi Junior High to High is a Canadian legacy. It also aired on PBS in the States. So it crossed over with the American audience, became very iconic with like Kevin Smith in particular, who referenced it and gave it all this exposure because it's amazing teen melodrama from Canada. It's some of the best Canadian writing. A lot of those actors went on to do great things in the Canadian industry, and it was an archetype for a lot of like teen melodramas that came after in both countries, America, Canada.
All right.
I'll remind the controller that I can mute myself. It's fine. Anyway,
Sorry, Jody.
Are
it's fine.
there any rebuttals?
Yeah, if you want to talk about legacy of the actors, SCTV wins bar down. You can't name 3 actors from Degrassi that went on to very good things.
Wheels.
Oh
Snake.
yeah, what's his real name?
Joey
What's his
Jim-
real name?
I don't know
What's
the
his real
characters.
name?
Who cares?
Yeah,
It
okay.
doesn't matter.
Catherine O'Hara, Eugene Levy, just to name a few.
The
Overall,
names
much
are
better show.
impressive. Like you can't argue that. But
I think iconic-wise, I think Degrassi is definitely an iconic Canadian TV show. I agree.
like a stronger cast. But I think to watch the show, like I never really was able to get through much SCTV watching it, like myself, because I found like it didn't hold up. Like humor is very perishable, right? Like I find humor from older shows is not always landing because you're referencing things that
the same
from the
humor
day.
that's in SCTV is in modern shows such as Schitt's Creek, various others. Corner Gas is a very high influence show. These are that's a staple of Canadian television in my opinion is SCTV, other than maybe the hilarious House of Frightenstein, but past that.
Yeah, like just the thing with the SCTV. Just this is just my subjective opinion. Like I think that they are talented people. It's funny, but like to rewatch it, it doesn't hold up. But I was captivated by Degrassi Junior High to High, like in reruns growing up, and like it's still something that means a lot to me, and I think it's part of our Canadian identity. I don't think SCTV's not. It was also filled with like a lot of Americans on the cast, like Joe Flaherty and a couple others that weren't Canadians. So I don't know. Maybe it's just a little less Canadian in that way, but
Okay, Dave. Because. All right.
okay.
Because I like that.
How did nobody pick Hammy Hamster?
Hammy Hamster.
Because I've never even
we already
heard
know
of that.
why.
That's my favorite, Chris.
Music.
All right. Now keep in mind with these questions, I've tried to keep them very broad. Best genre of music.
Rock.
Pop.
Okay, I win. Can we go
Okay.
on?
Jody.
Rock is, it's a very wide genre, and there's a lot of subgenres to it. Overall, who doesn't like to rock out? When you think, stuff like rocking out, like air guitar and stuff like that, it's always to a rock song. No one does that to a pop song. Rock is, we have stations that are classic rock. We don't have classic pop. Not that I've seen anyway. There probably is something, but I wouldn't know it. No one goes and says, "Yo, remember that one hit wonder from like 80 years ago? Yeah, that's great. Let's play an entire station of that." No, classic rock is classic rock. Plain and simple.
All right, Dave.
Pop music is, by definition, popular music. And it is what's the mainstream. It is the most appealing to everybody. It's the top 40. It's all
the
of
youngest
that.
generation. Yep.
Well, that's who's dictating sort of what the music is at present. The evolution of music at any given time is largely driven by the youngest generation. And that is whatever they're most gravitating towards is pop. It's not necessarily what I want to listen to all the time, but I think in general it hits the mark for me way more often. Like I love rock, and some rock is pop and some pop is rock, and like so anyway. But
pop isn't even really a genre to me. It's more of a classification, not really a genre. Whereas rock is a genre. You listen to a song, it's a rock song. When you listen to a pop song, it could be anything. So to me, the definition obviously for genre would be rock versus pop.
What can you is there a distinction between genre and classification?
It says best genre of music.
The way I'm thinking about this is that pop and rock both have many subcategories, so they are sort
True.
of
Yeah,
the same. Like,
but there's not really an
there's not a
identity to
difference.
pop, though. Pop is whatever's popular. Like he even said that. Whereas rock, when you deal with the genre of rock, you kind of know what you're going to expect. You're going to expect guitars. You're going to expect drums, stuff like that, regardless of what you're going to listen to within that subgenre of that. Whereas pop, it could be anything. Like there was a time when classical music was pop music. So it's, to me, you don't know what to expect. Whereas when you hear classic rock, if you're listening to a classic rock station, you're going to like most of the stuff there because it's all going to be the same type of stuff. Where pop could be literally rap today. It could be, an instrumental tomorrow. It could be something that was used in TikTok yesterday. So it's, you don't know what to expect. And I think, having that expectation is a big factor to knowing the genre.
Like with pop music, it's way more appealing to people, like both genders in particular. I think rock is a much more heavily male music genre. Yes, there are
I would disagree with that, but
women who like it both, but like you go to a Rush concert, right? Like all men, right? Like there's a reason for it, because they take rock.
No, you've never been to a Rush concert if you said that. I saw so many tits at a Rush concert, it wasn't even funny.
Am I off on this? Like, am I crazy? No.
Chris, music is your strong suit. What do you think of what they've said?
Mm-hmm.
I like Jody's argument better. I do think that pop could be too many different things. It's right. When you listen to a rock song, it's true. You expect some guitar.
He's got something to say.
Can I just say something, Kevin?
Sure.
Like when you ask Chris, Chris doesn't listen to arguments. Chris only knows what he likes better, and that will always be his answer.
He said I had a better argument.
That's okay. I still want to hear what he has to say, Dave.
I know. Of course, he's going to pick rock music
I
over
would like it
music.
if,
It's Chris.
You'd be more pro Chris and less anti Chris, personally.
All right, I'm going to go with Jody. He did make
Thank
a
you.
better argument. But I know what you mean by pop music, Dave.
I get what you're trying to say. It's just the argument.
Yeah. You're splitting hairs here. So it's
That's fine. That's how I win.
All right. But Dave, don't worry. This next question, this is right up your alley.
all right.
What team sport has the best looking uniforms?
Hockey.
I think I broke him.
Do I just win this one? He's
No,
probably
it's-
going through every choice imaginable now because Dave knows uniforms. The fact that he's this jaded on it, though, leads me to believe he's not going to be confident in his choice no matter what.
It is hockey, so I don't know what to tell you. Like it's
Perfect. I win. There we go.
okay.
Let's go. Move on.
It's
We're tied.
All right. All
Are we
right.
tied?
I was.
Or am I ahead now?
I'm not even gonna bother. So let's just
Oh,
go.
I was really hoping you guys would argue that. All right.
I wanted to hear his argument because Dave is passionate about uniforms.
All right, then I guess we're gonna go to the next one. All right, history. What war movie is the most accurate?
Saving Private Ryan. Actually, hold on. What do you mean by accurate? Do you mean story-wise, or do you mean like physics and various other things?
No, I mean, I know that's a tough. Like it's the most
Like it portrays
What-
war correctly?
war correctly. Yes.
All right,
Like,
Saving
but the-
Private Ryan.
1917.
Okay, Jody.
Saving Private Ryan, if you've watched the first 20 minutes of this movie, you'll know how absolutely accurate they decided to make this movie. They had veterans walking out because they couldn't handle the stress of watching this on the screen during the initial showings. This is a very accurate movie. Spielberg has done a fantastic job of recreating even the Normandy landings. Obviously there's a story there that isn't as accurate, but the actual portrayal of the war, very accurate. There's a lot of confusion, whatnot.
All right,
And the
Dave.
gore, of course.
1917.
1917 is that first 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan supersized, like to the entire movie, because it's taking that that war aspect and carrying it on for a whole play. You're basically following this one guy throughout the entire story, and there's no cuts. It is brilliantly shot. The realism is there. It's World War I, not World War II. Not that makes a huge difference, but it's a little further back in time. They have to go back 100 years in time versus like with Spielberg doing Saving Private Ryan, it was less time. Not that that's a huge deal, but I just feel like it's a more impressive.
All right. Any rebuttals of any kind?
Well, I just did a quick search because I wanted to see what other people thought of this, and 1917 isn't even on any of the lists that I've seen so far. Saving Private Ryan is definitely on there, along with Apocalypse Now, various other movies. Overall, I wouldn't disagree with Dave. I think action-wise, very cool. A very cool intro to 1917. But overall, I just think when you have veterans who are actually there, crying and leaving the theater because it's so accurate and it just brings back so much trauma to them, that probably is the epitome of accuracy when it comes to a movie. I don't know how I could explain that any better. I wasn't there, so I can't say for sure. But when you have that type of thing to say about that, that certainly makes you think that obviously it's fairly accurate.
Yeah, like I don't think that it's not anything Jody said is wrong, other than like whether he Googled the list or not. Who cares? Like it's like the movie is hyper realistic, It's it. When I watch 1917 compared to Saving Private Ryan, I got that feeling again, like I got in Saving Private Ryan, but bigger, better, more realistic, like very accurate. I feel like I'm right in this world. Whereas Saving Private Ryan, just a little bit less. Like, not that it's bad or that it's not right and realistic. It's just it's more cinematic. It's more cinematic. The way that the cuts and the dialogue are going and the different shots, like. Whereas when you're on 1917, it's all first person view all the time, without cuts, without any kind of scene breaks.
Oh, I wouldn't disagree with a lot of what you said, but the reason why I looked it up was because I actually came across an article that said veterans say these are the war movies that are the most accurate, and Saving Private Ryan's on there. 1917 is not.
Well,
but that doesn't necessarily mean
one are dead. Like, of course, they can't say it's accurate because they're not alive. But like most of them.
That further proves my point that you can't say that it's accurate if the people who were in it were dead and there's no way to reference back to that. Whereas
that's not true.
when Saving Private Ryan was
There's no
made,
wrong
there was a lot of
back
veterans. Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Because Ashley forgets, I think, that there's a microphone here, and she's got her mouth full and yelling at the screen.
I encourage that. No, what I'm saying though is that this was referenced by, this movie was made around people who were there. There's a lot of stories that were told to get to the point of the accuracy that the movie that was made. If you've ever watched the documentary that came with the actual thing on the disc, it's phenomenal to watch. These guys are crying about these scenes because they're so bloody accurate and they experience this shit. And that to me is that right there just hits me in the old cockles. That is accurate. It's coming from the mouth of the people that were there that it was accurate. So that's why I'm going with that.
All right. I'm going to go with Jody.
Yes.
I think Jody
A better argument, Dave.
I will say, Dave, though, excellent pick.
Yeah,
Excellent.
very excellent pick.
And honestly, if I thought of it first, I may have actually went with it.
I don't disagree with you too often, Kevin, but I disagree with you that time.
Okay. That's because you didn't win. All right.
I think Dave has forgotten because we haven't been able to play so much. I think he's forgotten what it's like to be.
One of these is...
Why does it say score both of us 0?
We're back to tied.
Oh, we're back to tied. Okay.
This
is
question
the one for the winner.
is,
all right.
What was the most revolutionary video game?
NES.
64.
Okay. Jody.
The Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES as they call it, was released in a time when video games were essentially dead. Atari overinflated the market. They completely destroyed it to the point where people didn't even want to play video games anymore. They didn't want to hear the name video games. One of the reasons why it's called the Nintendo Entertainment System in the English-speaking world is because they didn't want to associate it with video games. They wanted it to look like a VCR. The reason why they did that was because of the fact that the video game market came to a crashing halt in '83 when they oversaturated the market. There was no licensing, nothing like that. Nintendo took that market, they completely reinvented it and made it into something that was viable.
All right. N64, Dave.
N64, I grew up on these consoles. Like, NES was our first one, the Super Nintendo, and then we went on to the N64. And the N64 was revolutionary in that it went from the 2D environment to the 3D environment, largely, like a realistic 3D environment that you could explore, do the first-person shooter like with GoldenEye, but also have incredible games like WrestleMania 2000. It was a very versatile cartridge system while giving us that sort of immersive holodeck feel that I think is now just commonplace for video games. So in terms of like it raising it to the next level, the only place to go after that was to disc.
All right. Any rebuttals?
Some of his points are valid. The cartridge system at that point was a very old technology. Sony already went with the disc. So did Sega at that point. So the N64 was already behind the times when it came out. The actual graphics quality and the replayability of the titles were pretty terrible. If you go back to an N64 right now, there's only a couple of games that are actually even worthy of playing anymore. They just look terrible. The Nintendo Entertainment System, you can still plug that into a TV. It still looks the way you always remembered it, and it's still playable the way you always remember it. The title selection, much higher. The N64 has probably the smallest library of video games out of any system that was ever released. There's only, I think, 480 titles total. They did that in the first 2 years for Nintendo. So and the system sold way more than the N64 ever did. So when it comes to iconic, when it comes to the most revolutionary, when you really
This is not a whole next 30 seconds, by the way. Like, it's
sorry. Well, until the controller tells me no, then that's where we're at.
yeah.
But,
10 seconds. Like,
and you're welcome to interrupt me at any time.
okay, speed round.
Okay, Dave.
So, just in terms of like how it changed the video game scene for me, N64, when it came along, it changed it. I'm thinking of 3 games in particular: Ocarina of Time, GoldenEye, later Perfect Dark, and also Mario 64, their first game. Like, these 3 games in particular were incredibly fun. They launched multiple games in all of those genres, and also the wrestling game that I was mentioning, NWO/WCW Nitro, that moved on into WWF WrestleMania 2000. Like, these games, we had marathons, we had tournaments, like to GoldenEye tournaments in our basements. They were so much fun. Like, it changed everything.
It's not revolutionary if you had fun with your friends with it. It changed. The Nintendo Entertainment System changed the entire course of the video game industry, and it actually reinvented it. The N64 was already out of date when it came out, and if you want to talk wrestling games, the wrestling games on the PlayStation 1 were way better.
They were
than the
awful.
N64. They were way better.
They were. You had to do a move to do like a pile driver. You had to push like 20 buttons into it, like X, Y, V, do, up, down, do. Like with WrestleMania 2000, you just pressed like do, and you were done. Like it was.
So you're saying it was simple and not advanced.
Sometimes simple is better.
Very revolutionary.
Less is more.
All right, I'm ready, Jody.
Thank you.
Right. I didn't think it was
Dave,
good.
This was a very unfair question they asked me.
Yes, I know. Dave, you missed the one revolutionary thing about the N64.
Which was?
Hear it.
It was the controller.
I thought that.
It's maybe not the best, but it's the predecessor to all the controllers we use now.
Right. The Rumble Pack. I took it on there.
Very good.
I thought that the controller was going to be more of a takeaway because a lot of people hated that controller. So
Yeah, it's
they
not
hated
good.
it, but it was revolutionary.
It was the first of that kind, though, with the analog stick.
But honestly, I think this was a very unfair question.
Well, yeah, so was the uniforms one, and somehow you won that.
he just beat me to it. He said it. He said the answer.
I grabbed the answer he would have grabbed.
I was going like, what am I going to argue? Basketball? No, basketball's better than hockey.
Owns
Give me
more
a break.
hockey jerseys than
I was
Dave?
like, soccer? No, soccer's even worse. Football? Football's bad for other reasons. There was no. Where was it? The only place I could go was lacrosse, and I wasn't going to beat lacrosse is better than hockey because it's basically the same uniform.
In all seriousness, though, Dave, I just want to say one thing. You held up way better than you ever have against me.
Oh, everybody argued.
Fantastic.
Everybody argued very well.
So I just want to. I'm not trying to be cocky about it. I'm actually being very genuine. I think you did a fantastic job coming at me.
Do we have a maybe bring in some comments here?
Hey, let's do that. Was there any?
Some after the show. Well, we can hear him live. There, maybe we'll just turn off my camera for a minute, and
You turn me off.
you might know this guy.
Oh, I hope I know somebody.
Hey,
it's Jamil! Yeah!
Jody, the fact that you won wasn't just because you were great. You were great today. But Chris, dude, I've been promoting you all week, and you just laid an egg. You laid an egg. Where's the fight, man? I'm like shouting, watching along. You had. You know what? I'm not even gonna let your ancient civilizations pick take down a peg because that was all
something though.
But like fight for that macaroni loaf, bologna loaf. Fight for it. My gosh, Dave. I don't care if you don't like basketball uniforms. You argue it.
I know.
You believe it.
I just
believe it to be true.
I
Come on,
couldn't.
man.
I didn't think anybody was going to touch Dave in the uniforms question.
The minute I saw the word uniform, I'm like, I'm fucking done.
No,
Dude.
once you said hockey, I was done. I was done. Like,
Dave, it doesn't matter if you believe hockey to be true.
You don't even have
just
to
need to
believe your
prove
answer,
that
you just have
Jody
to
is
fight it.
wrong. That's it.
That's right.
That's it.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I know.
Actually,
I
Dave-
believe it, though.
N64. Oh my gosh. I don't know why you picked N64, but even so, it was the first system that emphasized multiplayer, something that like is like the basis of what video games are today. Like Fortnite
first
wouldn't
system with 4
exist,
controllers. Yeah.
right?
I
Wouldn't
didn't
exist.
think of that. You're right. I
Right?
could've-
Like, so we're talking about cartridge disc system. The Switch is one of the best-selling systems right now, and
It's
it's
still a cartridge.
cartridge-based, right?
Yep.
Right? Systems are getting rid of their disk drives, so you could say that discs were a fad.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
But the
Dude,
video
I
game
was-
question is
I think
very
Jamil is
geared
way more
towards
into this
Jody.
than we were.
At the top of my head, I couldn't research it. Like it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Chris,
that's the thing.
Chris, wrestling, dude.
What?
Like, don't
That
say
was a-
WWE, just say wrestling in general.
That
Like,
was a
Actually, I would
really-
have went with one of the
but-
most popular
but
entertainment
Jamil-
mediums.
But Jamil, he argued for wrestling really well.
no, I
did.
disagree. I would have stricken him down immediately, dude. Figure skating. If figure skating is a sport, then wrestling is a sport. It's a preconceived routine that is performed in front of everyone, right?
But they're competing in.
So are the different wrestlers.
No,
the
they're
wrestlers
not.
they're competing against other things. So even if you're at the first of the show or the end, at the end of it, there are judges that give stars and votes to things. Dave Meltzer's entire career is based upon rating wrestling. Chris, you should have consulted me, dude.
You know what I want to see one day? I want to see like a doubles tournament on this thing.
That'd be
I want to
fun.
see where
Me and
like
Chris.
Chris and Jamil
Chris.
is in one round,
Chris,
Dave and I on another side,
I take Chris.
and we'll just fight it out.
I take Chris as my partner.
Okay, we
Okay,
can
let's
do
just
that.
let's bring in a
doesn't
couple
matter
more comments from some of our debaters. Just take somebody off. Kevin, I'm just gonna take you off screen
You
for a
can
minute.
take me off.
Yeah, you can
like,
take me off if you want.
oh.
What's that? Bring in Jeff.
Do we have Jeff live?
Yeah, Jeff.
Oh, there's Jeff now.
Jeff, what did you make of that episode?
Yeah, Dave, you pulled a Chris. You can't pull a Chris.
Oh my god.
You can't give up on especially.
I
on
personally think
uniform.
Dave did
I don't care.
phenomenal.
You should have argued for Star Trek uniforms. You know, that was a
sports.
sport or just something.
I should
If it
have.
was a sport uniform though, that wouldn't work.
I should have gone for baseball.
Yeah, but
I
you
just-
could have picked.
I couldn't stand hearing Jody moan about
Bitch about
baseball again.
you could have picked Star Trek, the Star Trek uniforms where they play baseball. The Niners.
Mhm.
You could
There you
argue.
go.
I don't know. You could have found a creative way to bring it back around, and then all the only.
I feel this is turning into like let's shit on Dave, and I don't think we should shit on Dave here. I think he still did pretty well. and-
Jody's being a humble winner. Look at that.
No. In all honesty, and I already said it. I think he did fantastic. He put up with my shit, and he came and he threw it back at me, and that's fine. That's
I think-
exactly what he should have did.
I agree. I think he did well, but I can't forgive the quit. You can't quit
The
on.
quit,
You
the
lost
quit
by
was a
1
little
point,
disappointing,
Dave.
though, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I didn't know what to do because, like, I think in the answer in the the 2 rounds before, he got to argue the one I wanted to argue, so I was like exhausted by then. Like, I
It
was
doesn't
just
matter, dude. Like,
so.
like I will argue like for anything. If
There
you-
is some endurance to this, though.
yeah.
I agree with him. There is endurance.
Like, yeah, and you guys do it all the time. You guys have conceded rounds all the time on this.
And it's also not in
I
Dave's
can't
nature
talk
to go
about that.
I don't
completely
think I
nuts
would
on people
concede
either.
an argument where the question was tailored for me.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So that's
Well,
my argument on that one.
all right.
Overall, Chris, you gotta step in more. You gotta
Yeah.
argue more, man. You gotta.
I think Jamil and Chris should be one team. on
Chris,
one of
you would.
these.
We're gonna win.
They
tag
would rock
belts.
it.
Tag
Oh, yeah.
belts.
Tag
you got
team,
the
everybody.
gold. Okay.
All right. I'm just gonna take Jeff and Jamil off here,
Yeah, fine.
and for a moment, and so bring in back in Kevin and where'd he go? There he is. And myself. Okay, so we're just look.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
I'm on top of you.
I know. You win. You win.
I just wanted you to know that.
All right.
The video.
Well, thank you,
down there.
Kevin. Thanks for hosting.
Anyway.
You did a great job. I know. I wish I could have that. I should want that back. I want that speedrun sports back.
You did great though, Dave, and Chris did too. I thought.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah. Except for that,
This was one of the harder ones for me.
wrestling and the Sentinelese is but
I love the Sentinelese answer.
But I had roast beef, so whatever. Like so.
Yeah, I don't know what you're going with on the roast beef there, but
All right.
All right. Well, so the next host of Trivial Debates for the month of September is going to be Ashley Millard. So tune in for that. But will be the last Sunday. It will most likely be the last Sunday of the month. Is that the clap for Jody?
there's a clap there somewhere.
Oh, it's
I don't need a clap.
it's the clap, the applause of our next host, Ashley, and also we have lots of stuff going on our various channels. So Trivial Debates we do once a month, but we also have Super Mater Brothers podcasting where we're covering Big Brother 3 times a week, Sunday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. Check that out. We also are doing Live Long and Podcast, which is our Star Trek channel. That's 4 times a week. We got Tuesday night, Deep Space Nine at 9. Wednesdays we do original series rewatches, and on Thursdays we do Lower Decks episodes reactions. Plus on weekends, Star Trek Radio Theater, and our next edition of Star Trek Radio Theater will be tomorrow night at 9:00 Sunday. We're doing Deep Space Nine, the episode Defiant, where Thomas Riker comes to
Great episode.
Yeah, so to be checking that out, a bunch of people in here are going to be playing different roles, so you can listen to that live in real time or the next day on the audio version. And I think that's it. I think I plugged it all. So let's get the funk down. Oh, that's what you're supposed to play when Jody wins.
It's okay. She's learning. Nothing wrong with that. There's the funk.
Okay, let's get the funk down.
Now it's gone.
Oh, it started again.
You got to turn off the broadcast.
Good night.
I just like to see you guys dance.